recording, so hand
Okay,
over to you.
let's begin then. First on the agenda, we have call the order, roll call.
That's me. Sure. Member Abbott,
Here.
Member Amenderies,
Here.
Member Beal. He said he was going to be a little late. Member Kent. Also, I haven't heard from him either. Member Price.
Here.
And Chair Martin.
Here.
And as I mentioned, Member Frank is not able to attend tonight, so the others might be joining in a little late.
Okay,
Thank
and for
you.
a 7-member commission, 4 is a quorum, right? All right. So we can continue with our business. The next on the agenda is number 2, approval of minutes from March 11th. Take a look at those. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I'm happy to move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
A second.
Okay. Do we need a roll call vote?
Yeah. Member Abbott,
Yes.
Member Amenderies,
Yes.
Member Beal. Just logging on. I'll come back. Member, let's see, Member Price,
Yes.
Chair Martin,
Yes.
and then Member Beal, are you on audio yet? And then Member Kent is logging on now. I guess we'll pause and.
Sorry, guys.
Hi, guys, sorry.
I was just getting set
No,
up, and I'll be on later. So go ahead and act as if I'm not there until, because I have a work issue I have to deal with. So, but I just wanted to get logged into the meeting, and I'll.
okay, do you approve the minutes?
Yeah, I guess so.
Great. Very official.
I'm gonna
And
take my
Member
work-
Kent.
I'm going to take my work background off and put on the regular one. Sorry.
Member Kent, do you approve the minutes?
I do. Yes.
Great. Okay, that's everyone.
Okay. All right, next up is item number 3, public comment for persons desiring to address the commission on an item that is not on the agenda. Please note that each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. The Brown Act limits the commission's ability to take and or discuss items that are not on the agenda. Therefore, such items are normally referred to staff for comment or to a future agenda. Please raise your hand if you do have something to speak about that is not on today's agenda. Okay, seeing none. Let's move on. Number 4 is announcements, which we have nothing. 5, presentations, nothing. 6, discussion and possible action on matters related to the following items. So the first one is item 6.1, tree removal.
Chair Martin, I just want, going back to number 4, announcements.
Oh,
Staff has a
sorry, I
couple
breezed right through it. That's right. I didn't.
That's okay.
I'm just like, I don't see anything
I like
under it.
your
So I first
efficiency.
I thought, yeah, yes.
And I don't know if the commissioners have any announcements too, but let me, I'll be brief. I had just been asked to report on the Arts Committee and the Sculpture Loan Program. And so I just wanted to briefly let the commission know that the Arts Committee is working on a sculpture loan program. They've been working on it for quite some time under the umbrella, if you will, of the Ohlone Greenway Improvement Project, which was came to the commission a few years ago. And they've identified a few locations along the Ohlone Greenway. And they're going to install 2 pads that are 3 feet by 3 feet. One is at Masonic and Washington. There'll be a kind of tucked in the grass there. There'll be a sculpture there. And the other pad will go at Masonic and Solano, which is referred to as Rotary Hill. If anyone knows that, it's right behind the bus stop. So those are the 2 pads that will be installed, and they've been working diligently on that and have been moving forward. And at this point, we're working with BART, and eventually it will go to council for approval. So I just wanted to give an update on that, and hopefully those will be installed later this year. And then just, congrats to Alameda County. We're at the orange tier. And just to quickly go over, I mentioned this at the last meeting, not a lot has changed as far as what's open. We have the water bottle filling stations and water fountains. Those are connected, and those are all open in town. And the other item that changed is the basketball court at Terrace Park is open, as well as tennis and pickleball have been open, but tennis and pickleball both can be doubles. However, it's no more than 3 households. So those restrictions still apply. And then good news is that the weather is getting better, and picnic rentals, picnic benches at the parks are open. We will be opening picnic rentals, so people will be able to call and reserve online soon too. So that's coming up. And then I just wanted to briefly mention on April 6th, the library opened for in-person services. So they have, you can actually go into the library now, and they have some guidelines that everyone is required to follow, but they're open Tuesday through Saturday, and they have either one shift, 2-hour shift on Tuesday, and then 2 shifts at 10 a.m. to 12, and then a 3 to 5 p.m. Wednesday through Saturday. And then they are continuing their no contact pickup as well. So for more information, aclibrary.org, but we're really excited that they're opening, and various branches across Alameda County are also opening as well. So good news all around. And that's all I have.
I had 2 questions related to that and one brief announcement. So one question is that tennis rule in particular sounds like it's pretty complicated. Is that the kind of thing that the city posts at each court, or is that the thing, do you just assume people are looking at the latest county guidelines to figure that out?
We started with posting the specific guidelines, and then they quickly changed. And so the signage up now says, please refer to the Alameda County guidelines, and the CDC website for guidelines. So we do, it's on your honor. We expect people to follow the guidelines.
Okay, and there's some way to, so there's something saying, look at this place to find that information. And then another thing was, Commissioner Frank isn't here, but she pushed hard for getting basketball courts reopened near the swimming pool area, Memorial Park. And I don't know if the school still has portables there. I think they do. So the school district had worked out some like portable basketball hoops to be set up between the tennis courts and the school in an area there. Do you have any idea? Does the city have any say as to whether, you mentioned basketball courts are now reopened. Does the city have any say in that, or do you have any update on that?
The last
Those
I was
particular
there,
ones?
I thought those were still up. I don't know if anyone else has been there recently, but working from home, I haven't been to that area in a while, but it is the school district's call on the basketball courts. But we can follow up, and I can report back.
No, I can report back. I mean, I walk by there
great.
frequently, and they never went down. There's always been people playing there, just 1s and 2s, but they've never been closed.
Okay. I rarely go there, so I wasn't sure. And then
It's between me and the dog park, so I see it.
Okay.
Walking the dog around.
And then for me, there's like a weird thing going on in one of the parks, the Albany Hill Park. I wanted to mention is apparently the city's looking into it. There's a surveillance camera that was mounted in Albany Hill Park very recently, and the city has gotten back to me as someone who noticed it in the park. They said it wasn't put up by the city, and they're looking into it, and they're looking at different options and different things that can be done. And I've asked about signage and whatever else. And so hopefully we'll hear back before, if other people have noticed that surveillance camera in Albany Hill Park, hopefully we'll hear more back soon. Any other announcements from commissioners? Okay, next up on the agenda is item 6.1, tree removal and urban forestry update. Take it away, John.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Is my screen showing? PowerPoint?
Yes.
It is.
If you can, from the beginning. Yep, there you go.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, so tonight I'm going to give a general overview of what I do for the benefit of the newer commissioners and for everyone. So I'm just going to run through kind of quickly some of the things that I've been doing and how things are done. So we'll start from the beginning. Tree planting. We just finished. Well, we have maybe 3 more trees to plant for this season. I've been doing tree planting during the rainy season. Otherwise, the ground, it's already too hard and dry to plant, but it's still a little moist actually. But so trees, we have an accepted tree list, and trees are chosen from that list, either by me for city planted locations or by property owners for planting in front of their house in the sidewalk. So different ways you can plant trees. Property owners can apply. The city can plant trees, either I or someone in the city requests a tree. I find empty basins. I plant along San Pablo, Solano, city properties along the Greenway, wherever there's a tree missing or we need new trees or empty basins, that sort of thing. We plant replacements. When there's a removal, a tree gets replaced in almost every case. Not every case, because some trees were planted in areas where there's not, it shouldn't have been planted in the first place, like right in front of a stop sign or something like that. Whenever there's construction or remodeling of a house, not every case, but I forget what it is, 500 square foot or something like that. There's a requirement for tree planting, or if trees are already planted there, I require tree protection to be put up around the existing tree. When I look at a property, I look at, sometimes there's room for more than one tree, and I request that they have more than one tree planted. The way that's done is just like a property owner applying for planting. They submit an application with the application fee. Something that I think can be done a little better. Anyway, and then we're looking at interplanting, and there's a couple cases where we've done this, where we're planting new trees very close to older mature trees that we expect will be removed at some point. Last year, I think it was last year, 2 years ago, we denied an application to remove a Australian willow. It still had some life in it, and I convinced the property owners to plant two new trees on either side. So when that tree starts looking a little worse, we'll have 2 trees established already. We're thinking that there's a lot of places in the city where we can do this. Not every place, but actually we're pretty limited for this sort of thing. But where we can, we're going to look into doing that kind of thing. So this year we planted about 130 trees. It's the most since I've been here. We've last 3 years, we've averaged around 100, give or take a couple trees. 38 were property owner requested trees. They submitted applications. 92 were city and park trees. And this includes the Marin project, which was approved early on in the fall. There's a few replacements in parks, and some of them were old. I found evidence of old trees, old stumps, like along the dog park. We have a few new trees on Carmel, and there were apparently there were trees there previously, and I know we talked about planting trees, so we're having red maples in that line of liquid ambers, and that may be a place to interplant, as those liquid ambers are. That's one of the tree where you kind of target. It's not the best tree, and we expect those to be coming out. So we could have some red maples interplanted that will be established by the time those liquid ambers are ready to come out. We planted several trees in Pierce Street Park. Every year I've been planting a bunch of trees there, and the soil is so bad there, and it's really exposed to all the wind and sun and pollution and gophers and all kinds of issues there. So we planted about 18 trees, mostly or all live oaks this year. The red buds are just not doing well at all there. Although last year we planted a few red buds, they're hanging in there. So we'll see what happens. I'm trying to add a lot of mulch to places where there's plantings there too. So the Pierce Street Park is under construction in some ways as far as planting, and the field is another issue. So empty basins I find here and there around the city. There's one right across from the community center. There's by the bus stop there was an empty basin. I just noticed I don't know how long it's been there, but we're going to put another arbutus next to the one that already exists there. Like I said before, removal replacements, and I've been going through my records, and sometimes the property owner doesn't get back to me with an application. So I plant a tree in where we remove the tree. It's a city policy to replace remove trees. So I do that. I've got a little pushback on a couple of them, but hopefully I've convinced them that this is the right thing to do. Cleveland Avenue, we planted a few trees across from where that project is going to occur. Right now it's a construction yard. I mowed the grass and had 4 red gum trees planted there that I think will look really nice. They don't get real tall. They'll block out by the time that apartment complex is set up, those trees will be established, and there'll be some nice red flowering trees there. Along the Greenway, I've been planting trees along the Greenway. I planted some replacements and some new trees there this year. Okay. This is just a summary that I did a while back that I just kind of hit on all of this. So, tree pruning, I do that on an as needed basis, basically to reduce risk to public safety. Emergency pruning obviously gets priority. People request pruning, and I go out and I evaluate the tree, and I may or may not prune the tree. It depends on how much of a risk I think that tree might be to public safety. I'm not a pruning tree. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. So basically I'm looking for dead, broken limbs. I prune a lot of trees for stop signs and sometimes parking signs and just visibility at intersections. I prune for pedestrian and vehicle clearances, so it's not blocking sidewalks or poking people in the eye, and also so the delivery trucks and the waste management trucks can get down the block without knocking branches or limbs off the trees. Once in a while, on smaller trees, I do some correctional pruning where people just top trees or rounded it or hacked it up or whatever, or broken branches. Sometimes people walk by and snap a branch that's hitting them in the face, and I don't blame them, but there's a better way to take care of that. And that sort of goes along with training the younger trees so they don't do that. As they grow, I'm going to be pruning them up and away from both the street and the sidewalk. PG&E prunes for the wires for high voltage conductors. We don't prune for views, not that there's too many view issues in Albany, but there's a few here and there that people want to see the bay or whatever, and we don't really do that. We don't prune to minimize fruit drop or seeds or leaf drop, that kind of thing. I get a lot of requests for that. Some of our trees drop little bits of this and that here and there, some all year, some in the fall do a big leaf drop. We don't do that. Actually, pruning for leaf drop will increase the amount of leaves next year because the tree is going to spread out trying to compensate for that loss of that energy producing surface. We don't prune to increase sunlight for front yards or gardens or whatever. If someone wants to hire a contractor, I allow them to do that if they give me their pruning plan and let me know what they're doing. I just want to know that it's an experienced person who will do the work properly, really, but we generally don't do that. Presence of pests, we get a lot of aphids in trees and it drips sticky sap and it turns black, and people complain about that a lot, but the aphids come and go during different times of year. You can blast them off with a hose with just water. It knocks them off and they basically stay off. You won't get them all. They multiply quickly, but it's a way to kind of push them back until their season is gone. And we don't spray any kind of pesticides in the city. So if it's really bad, my feeling is the trees struggling, basically pest attack trees that are struggling, that are not healthy, and they're not going to be healthy where they are. If it's that situation, we'll let the tree die and plant something better that will be resistant to whatever pests. It doesn't happen. Usually they just come and go, basically. So, and they don't kill the trees really. We don't do shaping or round over or that aesthetic, artistic kind of pruning. And we don't necessarily prune for low voltage conductors, being like service drops, the wires that go from poles to your house, their telephone cable, and PG&E electric wires. They're all considered low voltage. PG&E won't prune for any of them. The other utilities won't prune for them. I'll prune for it if it's really bad, if there's a real lot of pressure. PG&E sometimes will prune their service drop if there's a real lot of pressure. It's threatening to rip, like a large limb that's threatening to rip the wire out. Or if we're pruning the tree for other reasons, I might have the contractor do a little couple snips here and there, but we're not clearing tunnels for every single wire. Half of these wires aren't in use anymore. Telephone wires, not many people have landlines. Some people, but not everyone. The same with cable TV. That's something that's disappearing, but those wires are still up there. Liquid ambers are, I'm going to have to say, our number one problem tree. They rip up sidewalks and whatever else the roots can get into. They drop limbs, and once they start dropping limbs, they continue to drop limbs. And these are large limbs, and we've had some real damage done by them. We haven't had any injuries, thankfully, at this point, but we're keeping an eye on these. So in order to try to reduce the risk of limbs dropping, I've gone through and inventoried all the liquid ambers in the city. And this year we pruned out several areas. Here's the list: the 900 block of Ventura, 500 and 900 blocks of Santa Fe, 600 to 900 blocks of Masonic, 600 to 800 blocks of Carmel. So these are all kind of high density liquid amber streets. In the past, we've done Portland and Washington, San Pablo, and they're going to be due again, possibly. I'll look at them maybe this year, maybe next year. We'll start this kind of liquid amber pruning cycle over again. But as these become problems, I'm going to be bringing these to the commission to have these removed, because they're really, once they start dropping limbs, it's not worth trying to keep them in place. We could plant a better species there. So tree removal, this is mainly where you'll be seeing me. I bring tree removals to you, such as tonight. So again, trees are considered for removal when they pose a real risk to the public. They're dying or in advanced decline, or in some cases, because they're causing severe infrastructure damage that can't really be repaired with sidewalk replacement, a little root pruning, or something like that. So that's kind of rare, but occasionally that comes up. Occasionally, new construction projects require trees to be removed for a new driveway, or sometimes just for the whole, if it's a whole new building, apartment complex, or there's a townhouse project going on where they remove several melaleuca trees recently. And of course, dead trees are removed. I find a lot of small dead trees. They're less than 3-inch diameter. Doesn't require a removal permit. So I just go, some of them I just pull right out of the ground with my hands. They're dead and decayed, and I get them on my list for replanting that year. Excuse me. So I assess the trees, and if it's, if it's a real immediate situation, I'll call the crew and have them come out and remove the tree. And then I'll report back to the commission that we had to remove a tree as an emergency removal. The non-emergency removals are reviewed by the commission, and the approval is basically based on the criteria in the tree removal policy and procedures. And again, any tree that's removed, we replace it in its original location or another more suitable location. Declining trees and species, something that I wanted to bring up and may bring up in future meetings, talking about specific species such as the liquid amber that I see as a problem. And another one would be the big eucalyptus on Solano. They're over mature. Some of them have dropped immense limbs, and we're really lucky that nothing has happened with these trees, but they're also in decline. They're over mature, meaning they've hit their peak and now they're on the downhill slide, and it's time to start thinking about them. Maybe we look at some of these in advance so we're ready when the time comes to pull the plug, so to speak, on the tree. So this year, according to my records, this fiscal year, the commission has approved 12 removals. Last couple of meetings, we've had comments about removal. All we hear about is removals. And, there's good reasons when we remove a tree. We really, fight to keep the tree as much as possible. And there's not really a lot of trees that were removed. So we've had suggestions, well, if we remove a big tree, let's plant 2 or 3 or 4 to replace the one big tree. And in most places, we can't really do that. We don't have the space to do that where these trees come out. But citywide, this year we've planted 130 trees. We've removed 12. So we're 10, 11 for 1, something around there. So we're doing pretty good. Although, of course, a brand new planted tree doesn't equal a mature liquid amber. But in the future, we'll have some nice mature trees. Hopefully, we'll have some good, healthy trees. Winter storms weren't too bad this year. Had a few limb failures, no complete tree failures. Since July, and in the summer, we have emergency callouts because that's when we get this summer limb drop, more specifically, liquid ambers. They drop limbs in the summer when it's hot and dry and they're fully leafed out. There's a lot of weight on the limbs. So we had 5 emergency callouts, and 4 of them resulted in liquid amber removals. One was a coast live oak that's basically split, and we decided to leave the tree. It was half the tree, basically. We decided to leave the tree, keep an eye on it, and so far it's hanging in there. Coast live oaks are a tree. In my mind, it's a valuable, ecologically speaking, it's a valuable tree, and we want to try to save that tree as long as we can. So here's the list of trees. We had 7 liquid amber, a plum, a ginkgo, Catalina ironwood was a construction. There was a totally dead mature camphor and a red bud that was just all beat up. And then all total for 2020, there were 3 more earlier in the year. I can't recall what exactly they were, but so we had 15 total for the year 2020. Okay, so to request tree inspection, to request pruning, to request removal, looking at sidewalks, whatever. We have a service request system in place on the city webpage, and here's the URL for it if anyone is interested, including staff, anybody. I like this system because it keeps me accountable. It keeps a good, clean record where I can look and see what I need to get to, and rather than my database here, which sometimes some things get skipped over, but I try to keep up on things. But service request is a good way to ask for, at least for me to come out and look at the tree. And then again, basically most of this information I talked about is on our webpage. I think I have some pretty thorough explanations of all the different things that we do and responsibilities for property owners. So there's that as a resource too. It's just getting that out to people, making them aware that these things exist. So So that's it for my quick update. Is there any questions, comments right now?
Yeah, I can't see everybody. Let me see if I can click on something to see everybody. No. Let's see.
Brian, you should be able to
Let's see.
scroll
Commissioner
the
Kent?
two little bars.
Yeah, I'm
You
kind of
should-
scrolling around.
If you scroll left, you can make all of us show up.
Commissioner Kent and Commissioner Abbott. Commissioner Kent first.
Okay, a few questions. John, the tree protection, what does that consist of? Is it just a detail for wrapping a coy around the trunk, or is it more robust for larger trees that?
Well, I mean, we're talking about street trees, so mostly it's just a fencing around the tree basin. Wherever there's exposed soil where there may be tree roots should be protected, and there's stakes in the ground in the orange protection
And is
fencing.
there any penalty if you put that up and they just disregard it and drive over it or pile stuff on it? I mean, what is the kind of the?
Yeah, well, you know, that happens not too much, not too bad here, but when permits are issued, there's clauses saying that if they damage trees, they're responsible, you know, for the tree, for repairing it, for replacing it, whatever. I'll go by and especially the bigger projects, I'll go by and look at it. And if they're piling up their junk there, I'll just ask them to move it. And usually they don't realize that, you know, what they're doing. People think, you know, trees are just to pile your junk up against.
Right.
So usually they're cooperative. Enforcement is kind of tough. You know, when it's one of these projects, we can pull the permit. We can tell them to stop work until they correct whatever needs to be corrected. But in general, it's yeah, it's difficult. If someone else were to do something, or when trees are damaged, we don't really have enforcement, which is something that I think I'd like to discuss with the commission in a future meeting.
I suppose if it was a precious tree and it was a development project, they might provide their own, part of the construction plans would provide its own tree protection beyond what the city's asking, right? Like at this, for instance, the school that was just built, you have all those redwoods there. I'm assuming they're all protected, but I don't know. The fence is all around them.
Well, that's their property. That isn't ours. So
oh, that's right. That wouldn't be part of yours. So
yeah.
So okay.
Yeah.
Well, a couple more questions. Hold on. The interplanting that you do. So are they just put in the ground at the right time of year and then you walk away, or is there any return watering to checking to see if the stakes are in place?
If it's city trees, city property, or streets that we maintain, I go by and I water. I have a big tank that I lug around in the back of a pickup truck and water. I prune them up to do training, like I was saying earlier. And stakes, if they need to be replaced, yeah, they need to be replaced. I can do that also. I also remove a lot of stakes because there's stakes. I've removed hundreds of stakes from the past few years because they've been left forever, and it irritates me, and I see it all over. And I see people replacing stakes that I removed and wrapping wire, and there are all kinds of things around that tree. Like the tree needs, you know, those trees don't need too much help from us.
So is there a survival rate of the new trees?
I don't have any exact figures, but I think last year out of roughly 100, maybe 3 didn't make it this year.
That's pretty good.
I think we're doing pretty good. I've used the same company, same contract the last 3 years, and they do a really good job. We get a great rate and they do a great job. So I think we're lucky there. So.
And my last comment is, did we ever get those pruning shears away from that guy that walks around and does his own? Have you seen him?
I see him occasionally. He's sort of keeps out of Albany. I've seen him on the Greenway a little bit, and I suspect he did some pruning on a buckeye there that really didn't need to be done.
Yeah, he did it outside the Royal Cafe. I was there. I stopped him. He was chopping the thing to pieces, and then he did it on our street here. Just came through and hacked away at a bunch of trees.
Yeah, I've found his stash and confiscated some tools.
Oh, great.
So, but otherwise I can't,
Yeah,
he
right. I
thinks he's doing
Yeah,
people a favor, but he just doesn't get it. And he's very aggressive when you try to talk to him. So,
Thanks.
but one more reason for me to do the training pruning and get the trees up, because he seems to want to do that
That's right.
himself. And
That's right, yeah.
so.
Okay, Commissioner Abbott.
Okay, sure. Just two quick questions. I assume that when I see a tree well that's been empty for a couple of years, there's a reason, that there's utility right there, or there's some reason that it's not being replanted. Is that a safe assumption?
If you're talking about Solano Avenue, then yes, there is a reason. And there's a couple more this year where there's one in front of, I think it's Da Nang, just off of Solano. And the tree just doesn't live there. I don't know what's going on. I plant a tree every year there. And there's one down 400 block on the other side of San Pablo by the medical center there. Every year people could walk by and snap the tree.
That one's crazy.
Sorry.
You see a broken tree there. Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah. So, and it's dangerous. There's these spikes sticking out there. So I think those are two locations I'm not going to try anymore. On Solano, one is there's a stump in the empty basin, and that was removed as part of that construction, that property that has the big gate and the house is offset from the street. I've talked to Razoo, Public Works Maintenance, and about having that paved over. That's one should be paved over. It's right next to utility boxes, and the driveway. Not a good place for a tree. Another one is 1300. There's a big flower pot sitting on top of a grate. Right in that grate, there's some utility. I forget what it is, but I wanted to plant there a couple of years ago, and I go there and I saw that there. So, but yeah, let me know if there's something you see that you think needs a tree. I'll go look at it. If we can get a tree in there, I'll get it on the list.
The one I had in mind in particular was the one you described with the stump that's left over from construction, and it's been there for 10 years. And it's just
yeah. There's another one down the block from Safeway in front of there's an apartment building and then a doctor's office kind of thing. And we removed one of the large eucalyptus, and there's a smaller one on their property, and that we can't replant there either. I forget why, but but
no, I remember when we
for a
considered
while,
that
and
removal.
now somebody has a little something planted in there, a little shrub or something. So
the other question, and this is kind of related, is that you mentioned that you will prune to clear around signs and things. Do you ever clear around street lights? Because we have such poorly lit streets in some places. Do you ever consider?
It depends. My standard that I was taught is 6 feet radial distance from a street light, a street lamp, not a traffic light. So in some cases I do that. I've done that on some streets, or one specific street where a person down the block complained it's very dark. And we pruned it, and it wasn't good enough because the tree was in between her and the light. Street lights aren't really for that kind of, to avoid people from being afraid to be out on the street. Another my previous job in San Francisco, we told people you need to leave your front light on if you're worried about, if you need light in front of your house on the street. And but yeah, if a street light is covered in a tree, we try our best. Sometimes the tree's been there so long or whatever, it's hard to really get a lot, but we do what we can do on that.
It sounds like the answer to my question is yes. And what I had in mind was a couple on San Pablo that the tree really does grow around the light, and sometimes there's very little light coming in. But it sounds like you're aware of that and you do what you can, and you can't always. Well,
let me know, because I'm not aware of every instance. I can't think of any place on San Pablo. So if you let me know the addresses, I can take a look at it.
I know, particularly
because I don't want to say, yes, we clear the light and
right,
the street is lit up after we're done, because we do our best. And
I'll check. I mean, the one I'm thinking of is near a crosswalk, so I'll check, and it may have been done already. So I'll take a look next time tomorrow morning. I'll take a look and let you know if I think it could use some help. But anyway, thank you. You answered my question.
Okay. Commissioner Price?
Yeah, a couple of questions, and pardon my ignorance, but is the permitting and like replacement requirements, is that both for trees in the public right of way and on private property, or is that only the?
It's only on public right of way. We have no jurisdiction over private property trees.
So there's no.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So there's no replacement requirement in the city of Albany for tree removals on construction projects.
There's not. We don't have a landmark ordinance or a heritage tree or significant tree or anything like that. And I wish we did. I wish that was something we would talk about and try to put in place. Not that I want to tell property owners what to do with their property, but we've lost some really nice trees because after the fires or a tree is in the news causing damage, people look out and there's a big tree in my yard and they want it cut down, and they get some what I would consider unscrupulous tree care company who are out there to make a buck, and they'll do anything for a buck, and they take down perfectly healthy big trees that maybe shouldn't have really been planted there in the first place, but they're there, and it hurts to see them go. So, but yeah, we don't have any jurisdiction over private property. So.
And that goes also for the tree protection standards, like you were saying. On-site work.
Yeah, if they want to batter their own private trees, they can do that. Even if it's a front yard tree that kind of affects the neighborhood, they can take it down or whatever they need to do. So I get calls about those, and I try to persuade them not to and tell them that there might be alternatives, prune the tree up or something to give them the room they need for construction, but they do what they need to do. So.
And so what would the process even be for changing something like that? Sorry, I'm totally ignorant about this.
That's a great question, and that's one I'm looking for the answer as well. I'm thinking that since the commission is kind of the tree, you oversee tree issues, that maybe this is the way we discuss it and present something to council, or I really don't know.
Maybe the next
I'm sorry,
time,
Brian.
Yeah, is that something you can look into, John, of like what do other cities that have a heritage tree ordinance or policy, like how they implemented that or how that works? Is that something you can do or look into?
Well, I do look into that often. I always look at other cities' ordinances and what they have in place, and there's different setups there. In some cities, urban forestry is its own, in San Francisco, its own bureau at this point. Some cities it's part of public works, some cities it's part of recreation or similar. And the history of how these things were put into place, I'm not sure. And more often than not, something bad happens and it becomes an issue that the city council wants to deal with, but sure, I can look into it some more, and I welcome any suggestions as well, or any direction.
Sorry, John. Go ahead, John. I didn't mean to jump in. I just on the heritage tree portion, most of them I've seen, there's usually a workaround that if it impacts the developable ability of the property, then it's mute. It's only
but it gives it puts a process in place to get the tree out. It's not just like, oh, the tree's in the way, cut it down.
That's right. It eliminates that kind of that knee-jerk reaction where all of a sudden they clear the tree and they decide they don't want to do the project, right? That's the
sure.
Yeah.
Or it puts in place in fees as well. Sorry.
Is what we're talking about? I'm sorry. Sorry, I keep jumping on you.
Go ahead, please.
Is this different from the city master tree plan that's on our work plan? Because my understanding was that this has been a topic of conversation for several years, and it was decided that this would be done by planning and zoning rather than by parks, because we would be consulted regarding the street tree and park trees, but the planning and zoning would be considering, trees on private property and heritage tree and all that sort of thing. Is this separate from a city master tree plan?
That sounds like probably, that sounds about right, that it should be something planning and zoning deals with, because they're reviewing plans and construction projects and all that. And that's, I know there's some requirements for landscaping and this and that, but not necessarily tree protection. And I've asked them, issue came up a couple times and I've talked to them about it, and they just told me that, we don't have jurisdiction over trees. It's private property. And so, so that's, I don't know, maybe that should be part of the tree master plan. I think it should be part of the tree master plan, actually. So.
Great, thanks. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Price.
I was just curious about kind of maintenance guidelines and education for homeowners, and what information is given to them, when a new tree is planted, say.
Basically, when a new tree is planted, I send out a little young tree care guide. It basically talks about watering the tree for the first few years till it's established. I let them know not to prune it. I'll come around and prune it because a lot of people think you got to prune a little tree to stimulate growth, or whatever, and that, that's not a good thing to do. So basically, I'm getting them started. At that point, it's another thing that should be covered in the tree master plan is what the real responsibility of a property owner is. We have a municipal code that says that a property owner is responsible to keep trees in safe condition for pedestrians and for use of the public right of ways. It doesn't really spell out what that means. So again, we're doing all the real pruning that needs to be done, and any other pruning, I kind of push that back on the property owner for their own aesthetic, cleaning up, whatever, thinning out. I advise against a lot of it, but some people insist on that's what they want to do with their tree. So, but yeah, that could be spelled out a little bit more clearly too. Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
well, thank you, John. If there's no further questions, we do have a tree removal application.
Oh, I forgot this part. This was just a wish list that I put together. I'm gonna run through this really quick, I promise, Ava. So don't want to take up too much time. We're working on having a database, something really important. We don't have a real inventory, a database, and I can't manage trees. I can't have a tree pruning cycle or anything and keep a history of trees without having a database. So we're working on getting something like that, but it's taking a long time. And here's the municipal codes, the property owner maintenance responsibility. There's destroying public property. That doesn't specifically talk about trees, but that's where we might go if somebody cuts down a tree or destroys a tree. But then again, there's no real enforcement. There's no defined penalties, violations. Tree protection we do during construction projects, but I think we need it during roof, when there's a new roof put on, or whenever there's some kind of commercial activity going on a property like that, some kind of construction or landscaping, maybe even a work, we should have a tree protection requirement. And then there's a obstructing sidewalk, which is something more trees, but also shrubs and weeds and things that I write a letter and send it to people and tell them they have 30 days to clean up, or we can enforce this municipal code, but there's no real teeth in the code. There's no real enforcement. So tree removal, one issue I get is people don't want to pay the fee for the application. So they wait until the tree is in really bad shape and I come along and have it removed. So where do we, that's this, both of our removal applications are a little unclear. Also with the removal and required replacement, I'm feeling that should be one. There should be one fee for the removal fee and then the replacement fee paid together, period. You know, because I have to go after people and say, oh, now you have to apply for a replacement tree fee. I just paid the fee for the removal, blah, blah, blah. It cost us $2,000. It cost them $200, but you know, we still get the pushback on that. An ordinance, urban forestry ordinance. I have some templates, some basic things drawn up that covers all these kind of issues. And this is something, maybe this is part of the tree master plan. I could share these things with you, maybe give you some ideas or whatever. Sidewalk landscaping is another issue that I sort of oversee, although we don't have anything about sidewalk landscaping except when weeds are growing over the sidewalk. I kind of use the ADA regulations that they need a minimum of 4 feet and it has to be kept clear at all times. But it wouldn't hurt to have something in writing saying you can't plant roses and you can't plant tomatoes and plum trees and things that are going to mess up the sidewalk or cause problems with pedestrians and vehicles. Let's see, maintenance of thoroughfares, responsive, just some more similar things. The historic landmark tree ordinance, something I think we need, and the outreach. We've been putting in little blips in the email newsletter that goes out weekly, mostly about reminding people to water trees. But again, the people that read these emails probably are aware of things like this already. We need some kind of, I have different kinds of fact sheets and information about pruning and watering. And I don't know if I'm trying to find out if there's a way to do a citywide mailing or something like that, or actual mail rather than email. But anyway, those are some things that I think we could use some improvement on. So now we'll get to the tree removal application. 928 Masonic, the property owner submitted the application and they chose criteria B, I think it is, that due to the tree's physical condition, it's unacceptable risk to the city. And my recommendation is to deny this application. They submitted it on January 3rd. I received it on January 21st. The trees, one of the reasons I think it should be denied, it's really 932 Masonic's tree. I'll show you a picture. It's sort of on the property line, but mostly over on the 932 property. One reason we might consider removing it is because it's planted right in the middle of 2 sewer cleanouts. So there's 2 sewer lines on either side, 2 sewer laterals on either side of the tree. And there's some sidewalk lift. There's definitely some sidewalk damage, but it's a swamp myrtle, Tristaniopsis laurina, and it's a tree that can handle root pruning pretty well. So, and I did discuss this with the applicant. They insisted to go through with the process. I offered to refund his application fee and he wanted to push through with it. So this is the tree. It's a medium heading towards mature swamp myrtle. Here's the 2 sewer laterals on either side. Really shouldn't have been, I'm sure the laterals were there before the tree. The tree shouldn't have been planted right there, but it's there now. The whole tree roots destroy sewer laterals is somewhat of a myth. They really, the old terracotta pipes will crack, and once they crack, roots can get into it and then they wreak havoc, of course, but the real cure is to replace the sewer lateral with the modern PVC line instead of the old terracotta line. And then we don't have that problem. Roots don't penetrate PVC. They don't wrap around and crush the pipes like some people believe they do. There's already an issue there. That's when they exacerbate the problem. So, so I don't think there's any issue with these at this point. But when there is, the line will need to be replaced. Here's looking in either direction at both of these. Here's where there was some sidewalk lifting, and the city sidewalk program does some shaving, and they've already done the shaving on this. So that's good for a few more years at least. When it gets worse, this, where did I go? I went the wrong way. I'm trying to, I don't know how to can you see my cursor here? Oh, you can. Okay, so when this gets repaired, we could do a little curve out, possibly. It's pretty narrow sidewalk here, but we maybe can push back here. There's some shrubs here. We could S out the sidewalk or just curve it out a little bit, or just do whatever is required, root pruning. And basically, when we do this kind of work, we do the root pruning. The tree's not going to topple over. There's extensive roots in every direction, and there's deeper roots that are still holding that tree in place. But we'll observe the tree to see if it starts looking bad. And if it looks like it's dying, then we'll take it out after the fact and replace it at that point. So I think that's the future for this tree, I'm hoping. Here's the other side. This is 932 side of the property, and you can see some more cracking there, but still not really bad. Here's the one wound I found on the tree. An old limb was removed. It's healing over. Where the arrow is, there's the wound wood. It's like scar tissue. Possibility of some decay here, but this is growing over. This is going to heal up, and it's going to be like a knot in knotty pine eventually. I don't think this tree, we don't see heart decay too often in these trees. The growth on the tree, it splits into two main trunks, but it's a good strong U-shaped union. It's not a tight V union where you would get where branches split or codominant stems would push against each other and tear apart. So that's pretty secure. Here you can see it's more on the 932 side. It's about the property line, but it to me, when I looked at it, it seemed more one than the other. And this is just the overview of the tree. This is the 928 property. So my feeling is that we shouldn't, we don't need to remove this tree. It seemed to me the property owner is foreseeing problems, you know, and we don't really remove trees because there may be a problem down the line. If there is, when we get to that point, then we can reconsider and look at it again. So.
Okay, thank you. So do we have any questions for John before we go to public comment? Commissioner Abbott?
I'm just curious because it does clearly seem to be on the other property line. Is that an issue if the neighbor asked to remove your tree, or is it close enough that you think in this case?
Well, it's touching the property line, I would say. So there's sort of a co-ownership, but yes, it's mostly on 932, and our policy states that the property owner abutting that section of the sidewalk is the one who needs to ask for removal. So, and I haven't heard, I should have talked to the property owner, but I didn't. I haven't heard anything. And so, yeah, I think it's part of the issue here. So.
Okay, other questions? Commissioner Kent?
So, John, I missed at the beginning. You said that the sewer pipes were not impacted by the tree, or they were? And second question is, how wide is that planting strip?
As far as I know, there's no problems with the sewer lines right now. There, you see some markings on the sidewalk, but that was for the sidewalk repair. That was just indicating the block that needed attention. Like I said, the property owner seemed to imply that he's foreseeing problems with this tree. The strip there is, I think it's one of our 27-inch strips. Masonic is very narrow. So that's one of our narrow planting strips.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, if there's no other questions, let's turn to public comment. Now's the time to raise your hand if you want to talk on this matter. Okay, so seeing no raised hands, let's turn it back to the discussion with the commission. Anyone have any thoughts? Commissioner Abbott?
The only thing I would say, the only way I could see, being in favor of removing this is related to the fact that I noticed there are not a lot of trees on that block. And so if both neighbors potentially were interested in planting maybe two, in better locations in front of their houses, you know, not between the sewer lines, then I could say, oh, okay, as a trade, but otherwise I agree that we should remove this tree.
Commissioner Kent?
I'm pretty much in the same mind. I mean, Albany's suffering with many undersized planting areas, and we're trying to squeeze trees wherever we can. There is no perfect tree out there. There's no perfect condition in Albany. So I don't see a reason to move this tree.
Anyone else? Okay. I would tend to agree. I see no reason to remove a tree that our own arborist is saying doesn't need to be removed right now. And even if that was going to be replaced with 2 new trees, they're welcome to plant new trees where there's room right now. And maybe the city has a program to even, you know, incentivize that. But do I have a motion to deny the application? Or a motion?
A motion to deny application. I don't have the number up in front of me. Should have had that before I spoke. 1 second.
928 Masonic.
Thank you. I make a motion to deny application 6-2 Masonic, 6-1 Masonic package. Is that right?
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay. Roll call.
Member Abbott?
Yes.
Member?
I mean, we're denying, so I say no.
Yes to deny, yes.
The motion is to deny. So yes, deny. Yes.
I agree. Yes. Okay. Member Amendari?
Yes.
Member Beal?
No.
Member Kent?
Is it Kent? Yes.
Yes. Member Price?
Yes.
And Chair Martin?
Yes. Okay. So, next up on the agenda, item 6.2, review of commission work plan. Commission will finalize the 2021 to 2023 Parks, Recreation, Open Space work plan. Anything you'd like to work us in on this a little bit? Like what kind of tweaks were done?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to look at the latest, we hope almost final draft. And if the commission has any feedback or edits that they would like to make, we can discuss those now. So I will share my screen. Tell me if that works. Can you see that? Thumbs up. Okay.
Can you make it much, like kind of fill the screen more? Zoom in, make it wider. There's a plus
That
minus
helps.
at the top. Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Yep.
I can move right into the new and ongoing items, unless you want me to go back up. I can do that as well.
Okay. So for me personally, these seemed like these reflected the input that we had and seemed fine to me. The one thing I would want to just look at is just the like the heading, new items. So we have ongoing items. That seems pretty clear because the new items at the top, just the fact that it says new items, does that mean they weren't on? I mean, some of them seem like they've been on previous work plans, so it's not new in that sense, like interpretive park signage. bathroom on Ohlone Greenway. You know, some of these things I think were on the previous work plan. So maybe there's another way to characterize those, 1 through 9.
If I can make a suggestion, we can just remove new items. And just keep ongoing items, but remove the title new items.
Okay, that works for me. Any other comments or
Mhm.
suggestions or requests people have?
Would items 1 through 9, would we move ongoing items to be 1 through 15 then? And then call out the ones below that will come out of the master plan update? Is that, am I understanding that correctly, or?
You keep the numbering the same, you just remove new items.
Just remove those 2 words.
Yeah, just remove the 2 words, new items, and just keep the numbering the same, and keep ongoing items and the master plan items the same.
Great.
I'm just a little bit confused. So these 9 items, are they then considered ongoing items, or what's happening to them? Are they, yeah.
If it's easier, we can remove the new items or ongoing items. I think these 2 titles were there to help to help in the process of creating the work plan, so you recognize where these items come from. But moving forward, really, if it's clear, if all the items are clear to all of you, we can remove new items and ongoing items and just keep the items numbered 1 through I think it's 15. Eva, I can't see. Yeah, and then just keep the items with the asterisks separate though, because it relates to the first item under number 1. And the reason why we numbered them this way is at the last meeting, you did request that we make each item its separate number, so it was easier to refer to.
That sounds good to me. One, if there's something that reoccurs quarterly or annually or biannually, I think has all been indicated now. So that's very helpful. And so that seems good. Yeah. So removing those 2 headers would be helpful. Yeah, let's do that. I think Brian's referring to that. Other questions, or I guess we need to just do questions actually, now that I think about it, and then we need to go to public comment. Almost forgot the public comment. So do we have any questions about this before we go to public comment? Did we already do that? Commissioner Price.
I think Susan Moffett sent an email that reminded me, is there anything in here about sort of the relationship to University Village, management and development? Do we have that? And then like at least communication and understanding of projects there and any impacts to Albany?
We don't have anything in the work plan, and that seems, to me, it seems like that would be more on a staff level to report back to the commission as far as if there are developments that would be affecting the commission, but nothing specifically called out on the work plan.
I guess I was just wondering if that's a gap with just a question about that, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the comment from last meeting was that the new development going in was going to bring in hundreds, up to like 800 plus new residents to Albany, and the math I've done, so that's about 4% increase in Albany's population, and that's going to impact all kinds of things in Albany for better or worse, and including public resources like parks, but we don't really have any say over what specifically happens in University Village. there is a 2x2x2 committee that brings the schools, a couple city council members and UC representatives together. And that's where a lot of that can get worked out. So staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think what happens in University Village really would come up on our purview much at all.
Exactly. And unless there is something to report, and that's staff's job to bring it to the commission, either for their input or just as a informational.
And I would, I'm sorry, Isabel.
Oh, I was just going to say, the 2x2x2 meeting is this Monday at 10 a.m. if you're interested in getting some more information on the development.
Thanks.
And I would expect the master plan process to be where kind of that awareness comes in when we're trying to think forward. I think that's where we at least could keep it in mind, whether UC has anything to do with it or not. And as a courtesy, they might want to include us, but they don't have to. So we'll see.
And as individual residents, we can always advocate for UC to think about the neighboring community and contribute in one way or another. I don't know what the Parks Commission itself what it can do, but yeah. Okay. Did I already go to public comment on this? No. Okay. I don't see any raised hands. Any other discussion or a motion to approve?
I'm prepared to move that we approve the work plan, removing those two headings. I think that's what we decided. Remove those two headings. Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a second. We have a vote. Roll call vote.
Too many screens. Okay, Member Abbott,
Yes.
Member Amendry,
Yes.
Member Beal,
Yes.
Member Kent,
Yes.
Member Price,
Yes.
and Chair Martin.
Yes. Okay, great. Next up, we have item 6.3 on the agenda, Sugar-Sweetened Beverage Tax Commission recommendation. Commission will finalize a recommendation for the use of sugar-sweetened beverage tax proceeds for fiscal year 2022. So this has come before us a couple times to work on, as it did our work plan. And I think this is our last meeting that we have to make any changes before it goes to City Council, but correct me if I'm wrong. And then these are recommendations. It's the City Council that gets input from a couple commissions, including us, and from the general public when deciding how to actually spend those tax dollars. And okay, that looks like what we came up with the last time. Anything else staff wants to add?
No, and just as a FYI, put the commissioner's name next to it, number 5, everyone kind of weighed in on that one. And then I didn't know, Chair Martin too, I didn't know if this is the right time, but if you wanted to read Commissioner Frank's comments, she emailed her thoughts on the SSB.
Sure. Let's see. Yes, so here's her. She said she's not able to attend, but she did want to send an email with an update on this particular item. Item number, which one again?
6-3.
3, additional outdoor recreational equipment. Oh no, I think it was number 4.
I'm sorry.
Subsidized full or half the classes supporting healthy lifestyles provided by the Recreation and Community Services Department. And I think her comment was to make them good this time. And so she says she did try contacting a few summer camps, Science Monkey Business, Suyan Chinese Center, and Trackers, about creating a program at the Albany Bulb that could potentially be subsidized with soda tax revenue. There wasn't any interest at this time for a number of reasons, the primary one being too short a notice for this summer. I also heard that they'd need storage, shade structures, and restroom facilities, so Albany Bulb wasn't seen as a perfect fit for their needs. And so she asks to take her recommendation, item number 4, off the table for that reason. Okay, so that's an update on that one. We should really start with questions then, and then go to public comment. Are there any questions about these? And then we'll return for discussion and any other additions we want to add or removals. Or, Commissioner Abbott?
Just you know, to inform our discussion, do we have any numbers on participants in education programs and classes that were subsidized by this in the past? I know that we've had cooking class, you know, youth cooking classes and things like that that were paid for by this. We made them free. And I don't know if that increased attendance or not. I just don't remember.
I would say that any free, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but staff could pull those numbers, but all of the classes that were free filled up. So the rosters were full with wait lists. And I believe, as the staff has mentioned before, sometimes those people didn't show up because they hadn't, the thought being that they hadn't paid for the class. So that was a challenge that we dealt with. However, the free fitness classes, those really varied. So we had some Tai Chi yoga in the park, and there were the regulars, and then some new people, and then there was I'm not remembering, it was some sort of dance class in the park that there were 50 people. It was her following, she was an instructor, and she brought a lot of people to the park. So it really varied. Yeah.
Okay, great, thanks.
Other questions before we go to public comment? Yes, Commissioner Beal.
So can we get a little more, sorry I don't have it in front of me, but a little more information about what the bulk programming is and how it pertains possibly to the soda, or was it just about art?
Well, that might have been Susan Moffat's beginnings of a proposal, and bulk programming had come up. We had recommended to the City Council the year before, and so I'm imagining that's what it is. I do want to make sure that what Commissioner Frank said was, oh yeah, summer camps, yeah. Okay. Did that answer your question?
Yes, and the other thing was, you said you were going to have comments from the commissioners before you go to public comment too. Is that so?
No, I didn't. I said we're doing questions, and then we're doing public comment.
Comment later. Okay, that's a good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we go to public comment? Okay, so it looks like we have one attendee with their hand up. If staff could get Susan Moffat on the line.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. I'm Susan Moffat, and I really appreciate last year that the commission recommended funding our stroll to the shore idea, and we didn't get funded by council last year, and we've come back with a new proposal this year. And at your last meeting, I appreciated that Commissioner Frank and others were generally positive. And since you all asked for further details, I have brought them back, and I'm really excited that I am going to be working together with Eugenie Shu, who created the amazing Coachella music event during the pandemic. And so the idea that we have fleshed out more is an event called Walk and Roll to the Shore. And it is an outdoor exercise and mental wellness project. And the idea is that we would show people guide them in walking and riding bikes on safe routes to the shore. And then once they get down to the bulb, we would have dance and music and yoga and exercise and a combination of different kinds of music. It might be West African, it might be Zydeco, square dancing, but the idea is that we would be providing opportunities for physical opportunity for people, and including people with mobility limitations, because there are some really great opportunities for that down at the shoreline. So we wanted it to be inclusive, all ages, family friendly, and to have permanent long-term wellness benefits, because once people know that you can safely walk and roll down to the shore, hopefully they'll get down there by human power in the future. And for people who haven't been down to the shore, and there's still lots of people who don't know about the shoreline parks, just knowing that it's there, even if in the future they drive down, then they'll be able to get exercise there. So this is our concept, and we provided details in our letter, and we'd love to have your support, because we think that getting people outdoors and exercising, including people who might need a little incentive, like something fun, like, you know, music or dance, that this could be a great thing. So that's our idea.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have Eugenie Sue. Your staff, can you make sure you, okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to just piggyback on what Susan Moffett shared. And just from my experience of doing the Coachella, which was a citywide, socially distant and safe music festival, I can say anecdotally that I've had a lot of people come up to me and thank me for organizing it, not only for the music that was provided, which lifted people's spirits, of course, but also that it was a walking, it was a very local Albany-centered activity. And just as an example, I had one person say, I saw 6 bands and I walked 12 miles. So there are definitely people who are thrilled to be able to walk around and do something fun. Of course, right now during the pandemic, everyone has been very restricted with the activities. We have to keep things safe. The proposal for this project will be post-COVID, so it will be perfectly good for people to gather in groups and walk and ride bikes and et cetera all together. And I also want to just mention that I'm a mental health professional. I'm a psychologist by training and by profession, and it's got face value, of course, but there's actually research that has shown that communal walking is very good for mental health and, of course, for physical health. And walking in general is really excellent exercise. It's free, and it's just something that we want to encourage Albanians and our town folk to do more of. So I know from personal experience from doing the Coachella that lots of people really like being outside, and especially if the weather's beautiful in the springtime, it'll just be kind of a happy time that we all need, and hopefully good mental and physical exercise. That's it. Happy to take
Thank you. So that's our public comment. Now we bring it back to discussion. And commissioners have thoughts on this item that the speakers were talking about, or other items?
Just this is
Commissioner Amenderies, and then Commissioner Abbott.
Yeah, I just want to thank first Susan and Eugenie for submitting the proposal. It seemed really clear, and I thought that the amount that was budgeted for it also seemed reasonable. Julie and I reached out to the Albany School Board because there was so much support from commissioners at the last meeting for a bulb event just reached out to them to ask for, their thoughts. And we heard back from just one actually board member who expressed support for a bulb event, and was curious about the possibility of bicycles for those who maybe couldn't afford them, and if there was just some way to like incorporate that to encourage participation for those who may not be able to afford to by bike. So I don't have any like immediate suggestions for that, but if that's something we can think about if we move forward with the bubble event. I guess I'm just personally in favor of it. It seems like I said, the budget being reasonable and the activities seem really great. I really like the addition of something that is going to continue or encourage people beyond the event. So like producing a map like you talked about for future use also seems really useful. And I guess lastly, I just wanted to say I'm glad that Commissioner Frank submitted comments about number 4, because my memory from the previous meeting was that there was a little bit more criticism about how it was rolled out before. I guess maybe there wasn't a lot of participation. So anyways, I was glad that she clarified that. And yeah, I guess I would want to understand a little bit better what would be different this time from before if this was supported.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Beal.
Yeah, first of all, after hearing that, I really would say would enthusiastically support the idea of spending money at the bulb. And on the item that's attributed to me about reducing soda tax or reducing soda consumption, kind of one thing that I really like is the drinking water stations. They have this little sign that says paid for by the Albany Sugary Beverage Tax. And so one thing I would like to see is whatever uses the soda tax money, that they have something in there that says it. And if there's time in the program to say something about it and maybe provide the literature. Now it would be a way we could accomplish all of these without, I mean, we're not going to have a class on soda consumption, right? So we need to this is something I kind of want to work in with some of those other things. So that's my comment.
Okay. Other comments? Commissioner Abbott, then Commissioner Kent.
Just a quick thought on Commissioner Beal's comment. On the one hand, I certainly see the value, particularly in the water stations, perhaps, on saying, paid for by. But if somebody wants to support the program, that would send them out to buy soda. I'm not sure. Right? If they want to add money to the fund, I'm not sure that's the way to go. But I think that signage saying, describing alternatives to soda or discouraging soda use would be to the point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Commissioner Kent.
Item 2. After hearing John's presentation and seeing this comment, I think a lot of the issues with the trees is not just putting a tree in the ground, but providing a place to put it, which often might mean cutting out concrete and digging out a lot of bad soil and putting good soil. So putting money into the ground to ensure we get a big, healthy tree. A lot of the trees look like they're planted and surviving, but rather stunted. And so I'm not sure how we do this, but if we could promote the planting of additional trees, but also maybe the infrastructure so that the trees can grow more healthy, be more healthy and grow larger. That's the problem we have is all our trees are small, clay soil, small planting strips.
Any other comments? Commissioner Abbott, and then
I just have one more, and it's more of a question: would the document that Susan Moffett submitted go along with this to describe that, or should we try to spell it out a little bit more if we wanted to add this to the work plan?
I would suggest that we make one of these items basically refer directly to it. And then ask staff to make sure it gets conveyed. Although I noticed in the CC that they included the city council, but would be maybe item 6. Well, bulk programming in general. The item 6 specifically refers to this.
And I can clarify that it is the Walk and Roll the Shore program, and it will go to council and staff will be there, and hopefully Chair Martin can be there, and we can invite Susan and Eugenie as well to be there at that meeting as well if they have any questions about it.
Okay. Commissioner Kent.
So just to clarify what I said, to put it, if we could just probably just a slight adjustment to this would be promote the planting of additional street trees and their infrastructure through the either subsidized or free street. I'm not sure how to quite word that, because this talks about just passing out trees and everybody sticks them in the ground, but it's really very little thought about preparing the holes correctly.
Promote the planting of additional street trees and their maintenance, maybe?
Well, no, it's more about the day they're installed, where they have a nice big hole with proper drainage and proper soil, rather than just a hole big enough to put the root ball in. Over excavating it. I mean, we have lots of these details are easy to find. So promote the planting of additional street trees and proper and robust installation methods to encourage livability and aesthetics of the community.
Sounds fine to me.
We may want to, I'm sorry, we may want to look at this as, fund a street tree planting program. When this has been done in the past, a number of years ago, an outside organization came in and provided this. And so a whole block would do it. And it was very supervised. That they'd come out one day and cut out concrete. They'd come back the next day and it was very supervised. And this doesn't say that, but I like the idea of something like that. So we create a program. We're asking for the funding to do that, something like that.
The program sounds more inclusive. Commissioner Price?
Yeah, and there could be an educational component to it or an outreach component to it that would fold in what we were talking about with sort of establishing those like guidelines and making sure they're communicated to people, to residents.
So Commissioner Abbott, can you recommend some wording for item number 2?
Give me a minute.
I wanted to say that I did appreciate the walk and roll to the shore. The map may be a lasting thing, but also the sense of community. And then also just like they spell out very nicely, I think just kind of showing people how to get there on foot. The one question Commissioner Amenderies had about would there be enough bicycles, they make clear that it's also on foot. So the bikes, I think, are just completely optional. If people have bikes, they can definitely ride bikes, and they're that's how I read it, that they will have people that can help out with that. There might be ways to, getting loaner bikes can be kind of tricky because you have to size them to the people if they're not their own bike and all that kind of thing. But Strollers and Rollers is a group that might also want to get involved. I don't know if this gets funded. Commissioner Beal and Commissioner Abbott.
Back to your street tree thing, I thought about it a little bit from looking at the wording. It's not clear, but there's an existing street tree program in Albany where the owner can fill out the application and they have to pay $200. So it seems to me like the way to word this might be that we could we could subsidize that $200 through the soda tax money, sugary beverage tax money. And there would have to be some sort of process for who got it, but maybe we're homeowners. Well, something along the city council would understand. But I'm just saying, we might want to point that out so that it would be more clear to the public that if we're talking about creating a new program, I don't think we're talking about that. I think we're talking about subsidizing the existing program for homeowners that can't afford it.
Okay, Commissioner Abbott.
I like that way of looking at it. I see it also as an event brings interest, event you promote, and so that there's an opportunity. We could even target blocks like that one on Masonic. We just considered a removal on that is very bare for most of the block. We could target that block and say, hey, we have this program. We can get some of your neighbors together. We can come and do this. A little more outreach. But the wording I've come up with, and top of my head, create a street tree planting program for supervised planting events and education. But I think that covers the things we were talking about.
And add, something you mentioned, block. Maybe it could be, you could throw that word in, block by block supervise. So it's not just random, but I like that too.
Yeah. We could add, targeting under-treed blocks.
Yeah.
Tree deserts. Okay. And then something like number 3, I would like, that seems fine to me, but you think there needs to be some, I guess we don't have anything specific to recommend. But maybe if the city council approved funds, it would come back to us to decide on. I don't know. And then I did want to see if we could put one more item on there, actually, which is kind of pie in the sky, but I still think it just needs to be, put out there every time, which is, well, first of all, there's already watering stations. That was the low-hanging fruit early on, was watering stations in public buildings and public parks. But there's one park in particular that doesn't have a public watering station at all, and that's the bulb. And so I would recommend that we put that on there, even if it costs $100 million or whatever it is to get water out there. I think we should put it on there, and somebody will get creative with it, and or maybe even be able to fund it for dogs and humans. Even like to rinse off if you've been in the water. There's all kinds of things you can do with water once you have it out there, but definitely a watering station out there for dogs and humans. Our concern isn't the cost, really. The city council can figure that one out. Commissioner Beal?
I guess what I wanted to say about this, and that because we have this item number 6, and I've experienced the same thing, that going out there, it is kind of a headache because you got to bring water with you. Well, it's not that big of a headache, but it's something more you have to bring with you. And if there was water out at the bulb, kind of at one of the extreme places, I think that would help some of this bulb programming we're talking about. So I think this is a very good idea. And I know what you're saying, it'll be expensive, so we'd have to throw that back to staff. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any other comments on these? All right. So staff, can you summarize for us what you've got?
It's always the tricky part.
Put you on the spot.
So, yeah. So number 1, what's the consensus? Did we want to keep the education campaign on reducing soda consumption? Or flesh that out more?
Commissioner Beal, did you want to clarify that, or does that sound like what you're thinking of?
I mean, I would say yes, we want that on there, but
maybe something to suggest that, you know, this could be part of the other item.
Maybe education campaign activities, so incorporated into items that do get funded.
Right, right, exactly.
Okay, I can add that wording. For number 2, Commissioner Abbott, you want to read your final?
Okay.
Take a stab at it.
Create a program for supervised street tree planting events and education, targeting, and I'm sure there's a word for this, but blocks without many trees on them. I'm not sure exactly how to say that, but under treed, under bare blocks.
Sparsely planted.
Sparsely planted. There we go. Sparsely treed or sparsely planted blocks. I think that gets the point across.
Okay.
Do I need to read it again, or you want me to read it one more time?
Yeah.
We're recording this, so I'll fast forward and get it.
Well, you could have done it from when I said it before.
I wrote down a lot of different things, but I'm going to go with what you said. And number 3, outdoor recreational equipment. Does that one want to be fleshed out anymore? Leave that on as is?
I think we leave it loose. I mean, I don't know any particular equipment, but it probably will come up at some point. And I'm not ready to commit to a particular type of equipment.
Well, was the intention here for the Greenway to kind of expand what's there, or kind of replicate the old park horse that was there, like have another center or something? Do we remember? I don't remember this. I remember the discussion a little bit. Was that what we were thinking? Not necessarily.
I don't remember. Commissioner Beal?
I was just going to say, my suggestion on this is just to leave it kind of general, maybe. That let the city council decide where they're going to spend the money. And then they come back to us with the money and say, you know, we've got some money for recreational equipment. And then worry about, you know, what the needs are at that time. That's my suggestion. Because it may change by the time we get the money. So.
I understand. My argument would be they're a lot more likely to fund something that's pretty specific than something that's very broad, because they're going to have a lot of different things there, and some very specific and check box, check, and they're done, and as opposed to something they're going to have a lot of work on. I don't know if we can get specific enough in the 5 minutes we're going to spend on it or not, but it's something like that's just my perspective on it.
Commissioner Abbott, did you want to take a stab at making it more specific?
Yeah, just a moment.
We can also come back.
I wish Commissioner Chang Frank was here to explain, remind us what this is about. And she also missed the tree thing, which she would have loved. So sorry she missed it. Yeah, I mean, I would say additional outdoor recreational equipment to expand or enhance the Greenway exercise area or opportunities or something like that. Just make it a little more explicit.
And specifically call out the Ohlone Greenway.
I think I would, yeah.
If everyone's okay with that, we can do that. And then we're going to take out number 4.
Okay.
And we didn't really discuss number 5, directional signage to parks and open space. We're going to leave that as is. Everyone was kind of on board with that at the last meeting.
Yeah, we don't know how many, but at least a couple coming north on frontage, and maybe, I don't know, to be determined. But yeah, a few signs. I don't think it's a huge expense, right? Pipe with a vinyl cut sign on it.
Yeah.
And then and numbers. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to, and that's addressed a little bit in the stroll to the bulb proposal. So that's sort of for temporary signage, and that's the kind of thing number 5 addresses in a more permanent way. So then what do you have for number 6?
And then number 6 was just going to be the walk and roll to shore with maybe a short description on the general programming of what that entails.
All right,
Oh,
any other discussion
You
or
know
do we have a
what?
motion?
Chair Martin, I forgot you are also adding in
Oh.
the
Water.
water station at the bulb as
At the
well.
bulb.
Yeah, and I see that as would that be a separate item?
Yeah, that'd be a separate item. Some infrastructure.
Okay, any other comments? Did I get everything on that? Any other feedback? Okay, great. So I can make those updates. And guess we need a motion to approve with the
Okay.
updates.
Yes, motion to approve as described or amended.
I so move.
Okay, do we have a second?
I will
Okay.
second.
Great, we have a roll call.
Mhm. Member Abbott?
Yes.
That was a yes, I think. Okay, member Amenderies,
Yes.
member Beal,
Yes.
member Kent,
Yes.
member Price,
Yes.
and Chair Martin.
Yes. Okay, great. Next up, number 7, and thank our participants for helping to inform us. Oh no. Oh, sorry, my internet connection has been pretty sketchy, but I thought something screwed up. Number 7, future agenda items. Committee members announce requests for future agenda items. What proposals, what requests do people have? Commissioner Beal?
You know, I'm not sure if it's in our purview, but there's a lot of talk about the horse racing at Golden Gate Field. And, you know, I know it's not a park, but I've just kind of put it forward somewhere. There should be more of an outlet for people to talk about this than just the city council, but that's what I had to say.
Yeah. Well, I will add that the what do you call it? The minutes we just approved from the previous meeting. One of the future agenda items was, I believe, proposed by Commissioner Amenderies for present and future management of the bulb. And so I know there used to be a waterfront committee or commission that was looking at what to do post Golden Gate Fields, and that was like a dozen years ago. And that commission is long gone. So I think of those kind of related, and I'm looking forward to hearing about present and future management of the bulb, and I'm wondering if staff can comment how that looks like, or what the next meeting is potentially looking like already for our future agenda items. Anything known yet?
Well, I can mention that the groundworks office, who's doing the master plan update, they're scheduled to come to the, I believe it's May 13th meeting and give a presentation. So that'll be great.
And I would anticipate that it will take, you know, a good chunk of your meeting.
I would just say that regarding Golden Gate Fields, if council wants us to be involved, they'll ask to be involved. Otherwise, we'll let them, they'll make that determination. Sometimes they do want the public hearing to be in one of the commissions and then report on it, but we'll just have to wait and see what they do.
Okay, and then can staff estimate when we might hear about present and future management of the bulb?
At this point, we don't have anything on the schedule, and we'll just have to check with community development and the other staff involved as far as when the appropriate time would be to come and give an update on the bulb.
Okay.
We don't have anything in the works at this point.
At the next meeting, can you give us an update on their update?
I'll see what I can do.
Okay. just as part of the announcements even. Okay, others suggested, Commissioner Abbott.
I do have one that just came to mind, and this is related to the ongoing work plan item about dog park. We've had a longstanding dog subcommittee, which of course we can't have longstanding committees anymore. So I wonder if we need to do anything formal about that, or if we just kind of move on from here. Would that could be a really short item next month, where we either create a new short-term subcommittee to look for locations, or we just dissolve the old one. I'm not sure what's required for that.
And are you referring specifically to the dog committee or to all subcommittees?
Well, I was referring specifically to the dog committee. I'm not sure there's any other functioning subcommittees ongoing, but I know that one technically is ongoing.
And is that, remind me who that is? Is that you and Commissioner Frank?
And Chair Martin. So all three of us are still on the body, which is the difference between some of the other subcommittees.
Sure.
Speaking of
We
which,
haven't met for more than a year, you know, since we voted on the dog park and Memorial Park. But what I would recommend is to dissolve it for now, and then wait until the master plan is done, and then we might want to spawn a bunch of different subcommittees.
I just didn't know if anything formal needs to happen there, or if we just let it go and it's done. I don't know if we recognize it formally.
Isabel, did you have any recommendation on that?
Yeah, I would just say that the previous ad hoc committee completed their charge. And if you want to take that up again as part of this new work plan, that the commission form a new ad hoc committee with a very specific charge and in a limited time.
I'm not suggesting that. I just didn't know if anything formal needed to happen, because it was left as ongoing, that we hadn't completed. We was left as ongoing. I just didn't know, but it doesn't seem like anything is needed. So I'll drop my suggestion.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no other requests for future agenda items, the next item on the agenda is the next meeting. So it is for Thursday, May 13th. And then we have adjournment. Thank you all.
Thanks all.